Beloved, tonight we stand at the edge of a season, looking back with discernment and forward with faith. The last month has not merely been a passage of days. It has been a spiritual corridor through which many things have walked into our lives. Some visible, some hidden, some already celebrated, others still waiting for interpretation. Time is not just a measurement of moments. Time is a container of divine intent. When God grants you days, weeks, and months, He is not only giving you duration, He is giving you opportunity for manifestation. And so as we reflect on the last month, we are not counting calendars, we are discerning patterns, instructions, mercies, corrections, and miracles that heaven has released. Understand this truth deeply. God never allows a season to end without depositing something within it. Even when it looks quiet, heaven is not silent. Even when it feels delayed, God is not absent. Many people miss the miracles of their lives, not because God did not act, but because they did not perceive. Spiritual maturity is the ability to recognize God's hand, even when it does not come with noise. The last month carried blessings that did not announce themselves. Some came disguised as strength to endure. Some came as wisdom to avoid disaster. Some came as divine restraint, where what should have destroyed you was not permitted to touch you. There are miracles that shout, and there are miracles that whisper. There are miracles that change your environment, and there are miracles that change you. In the last month, many of you received the miracle of preservation. You traveled and returned safely. You slept and woke up. You were exposed to dangers you never knew existed, yet mercy spoke on your behalf. That is not normal life, that is divine intervention. When God shields you from what you never saw, you may not clap, but heaven records it as a miracle. The last month also carried the blessing of alignment. Some relationships shifted. Some conversations ended. Some doors quietly closed. At first it felt like loss, but in the realm of the spirit, it was accuracy. God loves you too much to let you keep walking with weights that slow your destiny. When certain people exit your life without drama, without explanation, it is often God pruning, not punishing. What you call abandonment, heaven may call protection. What you call delay, heaven may call preparation. Miracles are not only what God adds, they are also what God removes. There are habits you are no longer comfortable with. There are thoughts you no longer entertain. There are compromises that no longer satisfy you. That internal discomfort is a blessing. When God wants to change your life, He often begins by changing appetite. If the last month produced a hunger for prayer, a hunger for truth, a hunger for meaning beyond survival, then rejoice because you have been visited. Some of you experienced financial miracles that did not look like abundance, but looked like sufficiency. You had just enough strength, just enough provision, just enough courage. Do not despise the miracle of just enough. It is evidence that God trusted you with endurance. There are seasons where overflow will distract you, so God supplies stability instead. The miracle is not always excess. Sometimes the miracle is that nothing broke down completely. Others witnessed open miracles, healed bodies, restored peace, answers to prayers that had waited for years, sudden clarity, favor where resistance once lived. When God moves suddenly, it is often the harvest of quiet faithfulness. You prayed when no one saw. You obeyed when it was uncomfortable. You stayed consistent when results were slow. Suddenly is not magic. Suddenly is timing meeting obedience. The blessings of the last month also came in the form of instruction. God spoke, not always audibly, but clearly, through scripture, through counsel, through correction, through inner witness. Direction is a blessing many people undervalue. To know what to do next is a miracle in a confused world. To know what not to do is even greater. If in the last month you were restrained from making a decision that would have cost you years, then heaven intervened on your behalf. Let us also acknowledge the blessing of growth. Growth is uncomfortable because it stretches capacity. You handle responsibilities you once avoided. You face truths you once ignored. You prayed with depth you once lacked. Growth does not always feel like victory, but it always leads to it. The fact that you are still standing, still believing, still reaching is proof that grace sustained you. The last month exposed hearts, yours and others. Exposure is not evil. Exposure is light. When God shows you who someone truly is, He is saving you from future pain. When God shows you who you truly are, He is inviting you higher. Self-awareness is a miracle many never receive. To see yourself clearly and still be loved by God is freedom. Do not forget the blessing of divine timing. Some prayers were not answered yet, not because they were rejected, but because they were scheduled. God does not rush answers, He aligns them. An answer that comes too early can destroy you. An answer that comes too late can discourage you. But an answer that comes at the right time builds faith and sustains destiny. Trust the wisdom of God's calendar. The last month also carried warfare, but warfare is evidence of value. The enemy does not fight empty vessels. Resistance often means relevance. Yet even in warfare, God was faithful. You were not consumed. You were not overwhelmed beyond recovery. You cried, but you did not quit. That is victory. Spiritual victory is not the absence of battle, it is the presence of grace in battle. Some of you are alive today, not because you were strong, but because mercy intervened. That alone is a miracle worthy of gratitude. If God had counted your mistakes without mercy, you would not be here. But grace spoke, mercy prevailed, and you were given another chance. Never take lightly the gift of another chance. As we reflect on the miracles and blessings of the last month, let gratitude rise beyond emotion and become alignment. Gratitude positions you for continuity. When you acknowledge what God has done, you qualify for what He will do next. Thanksgiving is not a courtesy, it is a spiritual key. Those who remember well advance faster. Carry the lessons of the last month into the days ahead. Carry the wisdom. Carry the humility. Carry the faith. Do not rush into the next season empty-handed. Take with you the testimonies, the warnings, the confirmations, and the assurances. Let the miracles you have seen become the foundation for greater ones. Let the blessings you have received become seeds for deeper obedience. As this season closes, lift your eyes with confidence. The God who sustained you is not tired. The God who helped you is not limited. If He was faithful in the last month, He will be faithful in the next. Walk forward with expectation, anchored in gratitude, strengthened by experience, and confident that the same hand that carried you through will lead you ahead, because your life is not an accident, your journey is not random, and your tomorrow is secured by the faithfulness of God. Beloved, let us go deeper, because reflection without revelation is incomplete. The last month was not only a record of what happened, it was a revelation of how God deals with His people. There are patterns in the way heaven works, and those who discern these patterns do not walk blindly into new seasons. Many people rush forward without understanding what the previous season demanded of them, and so they repeat cycles unnecessarily. But tonight, light is coming to your understanding. The miracles and blessings of the last month are speaking. And if you listen carefully, they are giving you instructions for longevity, for stability, and for increase. One of the greatest miracles of the last month is that your faith survived pressure. Faith is not proven when things are easy. Faith is revealed when explanations are absent. Some of you prayed and did not immediately see results, yet you did not walk away. You questioned, but you did not disconnect. You were confused, but you did not rebel. That is spiritual maturity. God values endurance more than excitement. Can shout when miracles happen, but it takes depth to remain loyal when silence stretches. The fact that you are still standing in faith is proof that something solid has been built within you. There are blessings that come in the form of patience. Patience is not waiting helplessly. Patience is trusting intelligently. It is knowing that God is at work even when your emotions feel unsettled. In the last month, patience was forged in many hearts. You learn to wait without bitterness. You learn to trust without controlling outcomes. That is not weakness, that is strength. Impatience often destroys what prayer is building. But when patience is present, destiny is protected. Some of you experience the blessing of divine silence. God did not speak because he trusted what he had already said. Silence is not abandonment. Silence is confidence. When a teacher remains quiet during an examination, it is not cruelty. It is trust that the student has been prepared. The last month tested what you truly believed. Not what you claimed publicly, but what you held private when no one was watching. And many of you passed that test quietly. There were moments when you had to make decisions without full clarity. You stepped forward trembling, unsure, yet obedient. That obedience is a miracle. Obedience in uncertainty is higher than obedience with assurance. Anyone can obey when outcomes are guaranteed, but it takes faith to obey when results are hidden. Heaven saw every step you took in trust, and nothing was wasted. The last month also revealed the power of divine remembrance. There were prayers you prayed long ago that suddenly resurfaced in your spirit. There were promises you almost forgot that came alive again. God does not forget words spoken in alignment with his will. Time does not cancel prophecy. Disobedience does. And because you stayed aligned, even imperfectly, God revisited what you thought had expired. That is mercy. Let us talk about hidden miracles. There are people who would have entered your life and disrupted your peace, but God blocked their access. There were opportunities that looked attractive but carried destruction, and God caused them to fail. At the time you were disappointed, but later you will understand that disappointment was deliverance. Many prayers are answered through closed doors. If God answered every prayer the way we wanted, many lives would collapse under unmanageable outcomes. The blessing of the last month includes discernment. Your eyes began to see beyond appearance. Your ears became sensitive to tone, not just words. You sensed when something was off, even if it looked right. Discernment is not suspicion, it is perception. It is a gift that saves time, energy, and destiny. When God sharpens your discernment, he is preparing you for higher responsibility. Some of you experience restoration, not necessarily restoration of what was lost physically, but restoration of confidence, of joy, of spiritual hunger. There was a time when prayer felt dry, when worship felt heavy, when belief felt forced, but slowly, gently, life returned. That is the work of the Spirit. God restores in layers. He heals wounds you did not know were still bleeding. He strengthens areas you thought were fine. Restoration is not always dramatic. Sometimes it is quiet and steady. The last month also brought clarity about purpose. You began to realize that your life is more than survival, more than routine, more than chasing applause or approval. There was an inner call toward significance, toward impact, toward meaning. When God awakens purpose, he often disrupts comfort. He makes normal life feel insufficient. That dissatisfaction is holy. It is a sign that heaven is calling you upward. Let us also acknowledge the blessing of correction. Correction is love in action. When God corrects you, He is investing in you. He does not waste correction on people He has abandoned. In the last month, some of you were corrected through situations, through people, through inner conviction. It was uncomfortable, but it was necessary. Correction realigns destiny. Without it, gifts become dangerous. You also witnessed the miracle of answered intercession. Some of you prayed for others and saw results. A family member changed. A situation shifted. A burden lifted. Intercession is a partnership with God. When He allows you to stand in the gap for others, He is trusting you with His heart. The answers you saw are not coincidence. They are confirmation that your prayers matter. There were also blessings that came through pain. Pain refined you. Pain taught you compassion. Pain removed arrogance. Pain taught you dependence. Not all pain is from the enemy. Some pain is a tool in the hands of a wise God. He never wastes pain. He converts it into wisdom, into authority, into empathy. Those who have suffered deeply, often love deeply, and lead wisely. The last month exposed the difference between noise and substance. You realized that not everything loud is powerful, and not everything quiet is weak. You learned to value consistency over excitement, depth over display, obedience over popularity. That shift in values is a miracle. When God changes what impresses you, He is preparing you for lasting impact. Let us speak about grace. Grace carried you when strength failed. Grace covered mistakes you regret. Grace sustained discipline when motivation faded. Grace is not permission to be careless. Grace is empowerment to live right. The last month was filled with grace moments. Moments where you should have fallen but did not. Moments where you should have quit but stayed. Grace held you. So, the miracle of divine order. Things began to rearrange themselves. Priorities shifted. Time was restructured. What once consumed your energy lost its grip. What truly mattered gained prominence. Order is evidence of divine involvement. Chaos reduces when God is welcomed. Even if everything is not yet perfect, the fact that order is emerging is a blessing. Some of you experienced spiritual awakening. Scripture spoke with fresh relevance. Prayer carried new depth. Worship became personal. That awakening is not emotional hype, it is spiritual sensitivity returning. When God awakens a soul, He is preparing it for stewardship. Awakening precedes assignment. The last month taught you that God is faithful even when outcomes differ from expectations. Faithfulness is not measured by how well God fits our plans, but by how well He fulfills His promises. And sometimes fulfillment looks different from imagination, but it is always better than destruction. God's ways are higher, not to confuse you, but to protect you. You also learn the power of surrender. Surrender is not defeat, it is alignment. When you stop forcing outcomes, peace returned. When you released control, clarity came. Surrender is trusting God enough to let Him lead. The last month taught you that some battles are won not by fighting harder, but by yielding deeper. Let us not ignore the blessing of community. There were people who stood by you, prayed for you, encouraged you, listened to you. In a world of isolation, connection is a miracle. God often answers prayers through people. Never despise those He sends to support you. Destiny is rarely fulfilled alone. There were also lessons about boundaries. You learned when to say no, when to withdraw, when to protect your peace. Boundaries are not selfish, they are stewardship. You cannot pour from an empty vessel. The last month taught you that protecting your spiritual health is essential, not optional. As the month closes, do not rush to forget. Reflection strengthens wisdom. Write down what God did. Remember how He helped you. Testimonies are not only for public sharing, they are personal reminders. When future challenges arise, remembrance will fuel confidence. If God did it before, He can do it again. Carry gratitude forward. Gratitude keeps the heart soft and the spirit receptive. Complaining hardens perception, but thanksgiving sharpens it. The more grateful you become, the more sensitive you are to God's movements. Gratitude is not denial of pain, it is recognition of grace within pain. Now, hear this clearly. The miracles and blessings of the last month were not an end, they were a preview. God often gives samples before full release. What you experienced was preparation for greater responsibility, greater clarity, greater impact. Do not shrink back. Do not doubt your growth. The same God who brought you this far will not abandon you halfway. As you step into the next season, step with humility and confidence. H, humility to remain teachable. Confidence to believe that God is with you. Do not fear what lies ahead. Fear does not protect destiny, obedience does. Stay aligned, stay prayerful, stay sensitive. The last month proved that God is involved in your story. He intervenes, He speaks, He corrects, He blesses, He preserves. Let that assurance anchor your heart. No matter what the future holds, you are not walking alone. Heaven is invested in your journey. So lift your eyes beyond the closing of this month. See not just days ahead, but purpose unfolding. See strength increasing. See wisdom deepening. See favor aligning. The miracles and blessings you have witnessed are not isolated events. They are evidence of a faithful God committed to your transformation. Walk forward with gratitude, discernment, and unwavering trust, knowing that the same hand that sustained you yesterday is already shaping your tomorrow. And your life will continue to testify that when God is involved, seasons may change, but His faithfulness remains forever. Beloved, let us continue, because some truths are not received in a hurry. There are dimensions of understanding that only settle when words are allowed to linger, when truth is repeated until it becomes conviction. The last month did not just pass over you, it worked within you. God is more interested in what a season produces inside you than what it gives you externally. External rewards can excite you, but internal transformation sustains you. And if you look closely, you will realize that the greatest miracles of the last month happened within your inner world. There were shifts in perspective. Things that once overwhelmed you no longer have the same power. Problems that once defined your mood became manageable. That is growth. When God strengthens a person, He does not always remove the weight. Sometimes He increases capacity. And capacity is a miracle. To carry more without breaking is evidence of divine strengthening. Many people pray for lighter loads, but God often answers by giving stronger shoulders. In the last month, some of you learned how to trust God beyond feelings. Feelings are real, but they are not reliable. There were days you did not feel spiritual, yet you remained committed. There were moments you did not feel hopeful, yet you kept moving. That discipline is a blessing. Discipline keeps you aligned when emotions fluctuate. Those who last in destiny are not those who always feel inspired, but those who remain consistent when inspiration fades. God also revealed the difference between faith and presumption. Faith is obedience anchored in God's word. Presumption is action driven by impatience. In the last month, you learned to slow down, to listen, to wait for confirmation. That restraint saved you. from errors you may never fully understand. Many victories are invisible because they are victories over mistakes that never happen. Heaven celebrates those victories even when humans do not. There were moments of loneliness, but loneliness taught you dependence. You discovered that even when people are absent, God is present. Solitude refined your prayer life. It removed noise and clarified your voice. Sometimes God separates you temporarily to prepare you permanently. Isolation is not rejection when God is involved, it is refinement. The last month also tested your values. You were confronted with choices between convenience and conviction, between popularity and principle, between comfort and calling. And though you may not have chosen perfectly every time, your heart leaned toward truth. God does not require perfection. He responds to direction. If your heart is pointed toward Him, He supplies grace for the journey. Some of you experienced delay, but delay taught you wisdom. You lay, and indeed that timing matters as much as intention. You learn that rushing can sabotage even good ideas. Delay is painful when misunderstood, but powerful when discerned. It protects you from premature exposure. It allows roots to grow deep before branches stretch wide. What grows slowly often lasts longer. The blessings of the last month also included clarity about spiritual authority. You learn that authority is not volume, not appearance, not position. Authority flows from alignment. When you are aligned with God, your words carry weight. Your prayers carry force. Your presence carries influence. Authority is a byproduct of obedience, not a tool of ego. You also learned about rest. True rest is not inactivity, it is trust. Rest is the confidence that God is working even when you are not striving. Some of you learned to sleep without anxiety, to pause without guilt, to breathe without fear. That peace is a miracle in a restless world. When peace guards your heart, clarity follows. The last month showed you that not every battle is yours to fight. Some battles require silence, some require prayer, some require patience, some require walking away. Wisdom is knowing which response fits which situation. God trained your discernment through experience. You now see consequences more clearly. You now understand that reaction can destroy what restraint preserves. There were also lessons about forgiveness. Forgiveness does not change the past, but it frees the future. Holding bitterness drains strength. Releasing forgiveness restores peace. In the last month, some of you chose forgiveness even when apology never came. That choice healed you more than it healed the offender. Forgiveness is not agreement, it is release. God also dealt with your expectations. Expectations can inspire, but they can also imprison. When expectations are rigid, disappointment follows. When expectations are surrendered, peace follows. You learn to hope without demanding, to trust without controlling. That posture attracts grace. God works best with yielded hearts. The last month revealed that obedience often precedes understanding. You obeyed without full explanation. You stepped forward without a detailed map. And only later did clarity come. That is how God builds faith. If He explained everything beforehand, trust would be unnecessary. Faith is built when you move with partial knowledge and full obedience. Some of you experienced divine acceleration. What should have taken longer happened quickly. That acceleration was not random. It was compensation. God redeems time. When He sees faithfulness, He compresses seasons. Acceleration is not favoritism, it is response to alignment. But acceleration requires maturity, because what comes quickly must be stewarded wisely. Others experience slow progress, but slow progress is still progress. Do not measure growth by speed alone. Some foundations must be laid carefully. Rushed foundations collapse under pressure. God is more committed to your stability than your speed. What he is building in you must last beyond applause. Last month also taught you about spiritual hunger. Hunger is a gift. Those who hunger are positioned to be filled. You became dissatisfied with shallow answers, shallow experiences, shallow living. That dissatisfaction is holy. It is the cry of a soul ready for depth. God responds to hunger with revelation. Let us talk about trust. Trust was refined. You learned that trusting God does not mean absence of questions. It means absence of rebellion. You questioned, but you did not walk away. You struggled, but you did not disconnect. That loyalty matters to God. He values hearts that remain even when minds are confused. The blessings of the last month also include wisdom through observant. Ion. You learned from the lives of others. You saw what works and what fails. You saw the cost of compromise and the reward of obedience. Observation is a teacher many ignore. God allows you to learn through others so you do not have to experience every mistake personally. You also learned about stewardship, time, energy, relationships, resources. You became more intentional. You realized that wasting time is wasting life. You began to invest wisely. Stewardship is a sign of maturity. God entrusts more to those who manage well what they already have. There were moments of fear, but fear did not win. Courage rose quietly. Courage is not absence of fear, it is obedience in the presence of fear. You moved forward despite uncertainty. That courage pleased heaven. God does not expect you to feel fearless. He empowers you to act faithfully. The last month also revealed the power of consistency. Small actions, repeated daily produce results. Prayer became routine, not just emergency. Discipline replaced drama. Consistency builds momentum. Many miracles are the result of sustained obedience, not sudden effort. Some of you experience spiritual warfare in your thoughts, doubt, distraction, discouragement. But you learned how to guard your mind. You learned that thoughts are suggestions, not commands. You learn to reject what does not align with truth. Mental victory is spiritual maturity. God also reminded you that your identity is not defined by performance. You are loved before you succeed. You are valued before you achieve. That revelation heals striving. When you know you are accepted, obedience becomes joyful, not forced. The last month taught you that waiting seasons are not wasted seasons. Waiting refines character. Waiting deepens prayer. Waiting aligns motives. What God does in waiting is often more important than what he gives afterward. As you step forward, do not carry regret. Regret drains energy. Learn, adjust, move on. God is not interested in punishing you for past mistakes. He is committed to shaping your future. Repentance restores alignment, not condemnation. Remember, these miracles are not only events, they are processes. Blessings are not only gifts, they are developments. What God started last month is still unfolding. Do not judge a story mid-chapter. Allow God to complete his work. Stay sensitive, stay humble, stay obedient. Do not grow familiar with grace. Do not lose wonder. Familiarity dulls gratitude. Gratitude sharpens perception. The miracles and blessings of the last month are proof that God is active, intentional, and faithful. They are reminders that your life matters, your prayers are heard, your obedience is seen. Carry that assurance forward. No matter what the next season brings, remember this: you are not behind, you are not forgotten, you are not abandoned. You are being shaped, refined, and positioned. Seasons change, challenges evolve, but God remains constant. So walk forward with confidence rooted in humility. Experience inform wisdom, not pride. Let gratitude fuel obedience, not complacency. The journey continues, and the God who guided you to the last month is already present in the days ahead, orchestrating outcomes, releasing grace, and ensuring that your life will increasingly reflect His faithfulness, His wisdom, and His unchanging love. Beloved, stay with me because there are still depths to uncover. Spiritual truth is like light passing through layers. Each layer reveals something new. The last month was not only a season you survived, it was a season that trained you. God does not waste experiences. Every moment carried instruction, whether pleasant or painful. If you look closely, you will see that heaven was intentional with you, shaping responses, refining motives, and strengthening foundations that will carry you into seasons of greater responsibility. One of the quiet miracles of the last month is resilience. Resilience is not loud, but it is powerful. You were stretched, yet you did not snap. You were pressed, yet you did not collapse. That strength did not come from personality or willpower alone. It came from grace. Grace reinforced your inner structure. Many people look strong until pressure arrives. Pressure reveals what strength is made of. And in your case, pressure revealed that God had done a deeper work than you realize. The last month also confronted your self-image. You saw your weaknesses more clearly, but instead of destroying you, that awareness humbled you. Humility is a miracle. To see yourself accurately without self-hatred is a gift from God. Pride blinds and insecurity distorts, but humility clarifies. When humility grows, learning accelerates. God teaches the humble not because they are perfect, but because they are pliable. There were moments when you had to choose obedience over explanation. You wanted clarity, but God wanted trust. You wanted assurance, but God wanted surrender. And slowly you learn that trusting God does not mean understanding everything. It means believing that He understands everything. That shift is maturity. Children need explanations. Sons and daughters rely on relationship. The last month also revealed the power of silence. You learn that you do not have to respond to every provocation. You do not have to explain yourself to everyone. Silence protected your peace. Silence guarded your spirit. Silence allowed God to fight battles you were never meant to fight. Silence is not weakness when it is guided by wisdom. Some of you learned the cost of emotional reactions. You saw how words spoken too quickly can create wounds that take time to heal. And you also saw how restraint can preserve relationships and dignity. Emotional intelligence is a blessing. To feel deeply without acting destructively is a mark of growth. The blessings of the last month include emotional healing. Old wounds surfaced, not to harm you, but to be healed. God often brings buried pain to the surface when He is ready to deal with it. Healing is uncomfortable before it is relieving, but once healed, you realize how much strength you lost carrying untreated pain. Healing restores energy. There were lessons about leadership. Even if you do not see yourself as a leader, leadership begins with self-governance. You learn to manage your time better, to manage your reactions better, to manage your focus better. Anyone who can lead themselves can be trusted with influence. God prepares leaders privately before He reveals them publicly. The last month also taught you about accountability. You realized the value of correction, of counsel, of guidance. Independence without wisdom leads to error. God often protects us by placing people around us who can see what we cannot. Accepting correction is not humiliation, it is preservation. You also learn the difference between inspiration and discipline. Inspiration excites you, discipline sustains you. There were days you were not inspired, but you still showed up, you still prayed, you still believed. That discipline beats spiritual muscle. Muscle is not built during applause, it is built during resistance. The last month revealed the importance of perspective. The same situation can either weaken or strengthen you depending on how you interpret it. God adjusted your lens. You began to see trials as training, delays as preparation, resistance as refinement. Perspective transforms experience. Some of you experienced disappointment, but disappointment refined hope. Hope became less dependent on outcomes and more anchored in God's character. That kind of hope does not collapse when plans change. It remains steady because it is rooted in trust, not circumstance. The blessings of the last month also include answered prayers you did not recognize immediately. Some answers came subtly, some came gradually, some came in forms you did not expect. God answers according to wisdom, not urgency. When answers look different from requests, it is often because God saw what you could not. There were lessons about generosity. You gave time, attention, kindness, prayer. Sometimes you gave when you felt empty, and yet you were replenished. Giving does not deplete when God is involved, it multiplies. God replenishes generous hearts because generosity reflects his nature. The last month taught you about boundaries in giving. You learned that helping does not mean rescuing everyone. You learned that love sometimes requires saying no. Healthy boundaries protect both giver and receiver. Boundaries are not rejection, they are responsibility. You also learned that growth often happens quietly. There were no dramatic announcements, no public recognition, yet something real was happening. God often does his deepest work in hidden places. Roots grow underground before fruit appears above ground. Do not despise hidden seasons. The last month revealed your capacity for compassion. You became more patient with others, more understanding, less judgmental. Compassion is a sign of maturity. Those who have been refined by pain often treat others with grace. God trusts compassionate hearts with influence. There were moments when fear tried to dominate your thoughts. Fear of the future, fear of failure, fear of loss. But fear did not have the final word. Faith rose, sometimes trembling but present. Courage does not always roar, sometimes it whispers, keep going. The blessings of the last month include spiritual clarity. Confusion decreased. Focus improved. Distractions lost their grip. When God sharpens focus, progress accelerates. Focus is a spiritual discipline. Where attention goes, energy follows. You also learn that comparison steals joy. Looking at others distracted you from appreciating your own journey. But gradually, you realize that everyone has a different path, a different pace, a different assignment. Comparison fades when purpose becomes clear. The last month revealed the importance of gratitude, even in unfinished seasons. Gratitude does not wait for completion. It celebrates progress. When you thanked God for partial answers, peace increased. Gratitude invites more grace. There were lessons about endurance. Endurance is faith stretched over time. You learned to remain steady when excitement faded. Endurance produces character, and character sustains destiny. Quick victories excite. Enduring faith transforms. God also reminded you that your value is intrinsic, not earned. You are valuable because you are loved, not because you perform well. That truth dismantles striving and restores joy. Obedience flows naturally from love, not fear. The last month also revealed that God speaks through repetition. Certain messages kept resurfacing. Certain themes kept appearing. God repeats what is important. Repetition is not redundancy, it is emphasis. Pay attention to recurring instructions. You learn that obedience does not always feel rewarding immediately. Sometimes obedience feels costly before it feels fulfilling. But obedience always produces fruit, even if harvest is delayed. Trust the process. The blessings of the last month include divine restraint. There were words you wanted to say but did not, actions you wanted to take but withheld. That restraint preserved relationships and protected outcomes. Wisdom often shows itself in what you choose not to or do. You also learn that spiritual growth is not linear. There were days of strength and days of weakness, progress and setbacks, confidence and doubt. But overall, direction mattered more than perfection. God looks at trajectory, not isolated moments. The last month refined your prayer life. Prayer became more honest, less scripted, more sincere. God values authenticity over eloquence. Honest prayers move heaven because they align with truth. There were lessons about trust in uncertainty. You did not have all the answers, but you kept moving. Trust grew deeper because it was tested. Untested trust is theoretical. Tested trust is experiential. As you move forward, do not rush past these lessons. Reflection preserves wisdom. Apply what you learned. Let experience shape decisions. Wisdom is knowledge applied. The miracles and blessings of the last month are evidence that God is invested in your development, not just your comfort. He is shaping character, not just circumstances. That is love. So remain teachable. Remain grateful. Remain obedient. Do not grow weary in doing what is right. Growth is happening even when progress feels slow. Your journey is unfolding according to divine wisdom. The season ahead will require what you learned in the season behind. Nothing was wasted. Nothing was random. Walk forward with quiet confidence, not arrogance, but assurance. The God who sustained you, corrected you, strengthened you, and guided you through the last month is not finished. He is faithful, intentional, and deeply involved in your story. And as you continue, let your life reflect the lessons learned, the grace received, and the faith strengthened. Let it shape your attitude, wisdom guide your choices, and trust anchor your heart, knowing that every season, every lesson, every miracle is contributing to a greater purpose that God is faithfully bringing to completion. Give heed. As we bring this reflection to a close, it is important to understand that conclusions in the Spirit are not endings, they are transitions. We conclude today is not the activity of God, but our reflection on His dealings. The last month has spoken, and if we are wise, we will not only remember what happened, but we will carry forward what it produced within us. Seasons end, but lessons must remain. Moments pass, but truth must be retained. If you walk away with awareness, gratitude, and alignment, then this season has fulfilled its assignment in your life. The greatest danger after a season of miracles and blessings is forgetfulness. Forgetfulness weakens gratitude, and gratitude fuels continuity. When people forget what God has done, they begin to treat grace casually. But when remembrance is preserved, reverence is sustained. Tonight, let your heart settle into gratitude. Not a shallow gratitude that celebrates only what was dramatic, but a deep gratitude that honors preservation, instruction, restraint, correction, and quiet help. Some of the greatest miracles you experienced were invisible, yet they were intentional. As you move forward, resist the temptation to rush into the next season without carrying the wisdom of the last one. Speed without direction leads to repetition. God does not want you to merely advance. He wants you to mature. Advancement without maturity creates collapse, but maturity ensures sustainability. The lessons you learned about patience, obedience, discernment, restraint, humility, and trust are not optional tools. They are essential equipment for where you are going next. Understand this clearly. The God who blessed you in the last month did not do so because you are perfect. He did so because he is faithful. His faithfulness is not a response to your performance. It is an expression of his character. This truth should not produce carelessness, but confidence. Confidence that even when you are weak, grace is available. Confidence that even when you stumble, mercy can restore. Confidence that God is more committed to your growth than you are. Let the testimonies of the last month become anchors for your faith. When challenges arise, and they will, do not measure God by the problem in front of you. Measure the problem by the God who has already proven himself. Faith grows when memory is trained to recall evidence. You have evidence now. Evidence that God sustains. Evidence that God speaks. Evidence that God intervenes. Evidence that God restores. Evidence that God finishes what he starts. As you step into the days ahead, guard your heart diligently. Do not allow familiarity to dull your hunger. Do not allow success to weaken your dependence. Do not allow disappointment to harden your spirit. The posture that attracts God's help is humility mixed with expectancy. Expect God to move, but remain humble enough to follow his instructions. Expect increase, but remain disciplined enough to steward it well. The discipline you learned. Carry forward the prayer life that deepened. Carry forward the boundaries that protected your peace. Carry forward the discernment that saved you from error. Carry forward the compassion that softened your heart. Carry forward the courage that kept you moving even when fear whispered. These are not temporary traits. They are the marks of a life being shaped by God. Remember that destiny is not revealed in a single moment. It is unfolded through consistent obedience. The miracles and blessings of last month were not rewards for arrival. They were confirmations that you are on the right path. Stay on that path. Do not be distracted by comparison. Do not be discouraged by delay. Do not be deceived by shortcuts. What God builds with you, he builds to last. Let gratitude remain your language. Gratitude keeps the heart aligned. Complaining blinds perception, but thanksgiving sharpens it. When gratitude becomes a lifestyle, you begin to recognize God's hand even in ordinary days. And ordinary days, when seen through spiritual eyes, are filled with extraordinary grace. As this season closes, release regret. Regret will not change the past, but wisdom will shape the future. Learn from mistakes without living in condemnation. God is not interested in reminding you of where you failed. He is focused on where he is taking you. Alignment, not guilt, is the language of heaven. Forward with confidence, but not arrogance. Confidence rooted in God produces arrogance rooted in self produces pressure. Let your confidence come from the knowledge that you are not walking alone. The same God who ordered your steps yesterday is already present in your tomorrow. Finally, let your life testify, not just through words, but through consistency, character, and conviction. Let the miracles and blessings of the last month reflect in how you live, how you respond, how you love, and how you obey. When people see stability where there should be collapse, peace where there should be panic, wisdom where there should be confusion, they will see evidence that God has been at work in you. As you go forward, go with clarity, gratitude, and unwavering trust. The season has ended, but the journey continues. And the God who carried you through the last month remains faithful, intentional, and deeply invested in every step ahead. Walk boldly, walk humbly, and walk confidently. And get what God has begun in your life, he is fully committed to completing.